Everybody, welcome back to Soccer Wise with David, Gotham, Jordan, and Lee for a massive episode, a special recording on Monday for us. We need a whole week to preview a championship game. Jordan, we have our finalists for 2025. It probably isn't the names we would have picked a month ago. It is probably close to the names someone would have picked a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And maybe even at the beginning of the season. We get Washington and Gotham, a Northeast rivalry out in the Bay Area, which is the funniest part of all of this. In the end, of course, a neutral site. And we are excited to be a part of it for the entire week.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. I was going to joke, like the teams everybody predicted to be in the final. I think Washington, with the run that they've had as of late, people were excited about what they could do. And even with the fact that Trinity Rodman was getting back from injury, there was a lot of hope for this Washington team. But Gotham, I wouldn't have, think about mid-season. We didn't even think Gotham was going to make the playoffs, and they barely made the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what this final is. I'm excited to preview. I'm excited to talk about how they got there. And isn't this the rivalry that NWSL is like really trying, one of the rivalries?
Like rivalry week?
Yeah, they're like really trying to push this one. So here we go.
I have it in the notes because I said it a bunch of times as we were watching the standings move and like we don't know where it's going to land. I thought last year's semifinal between the two was one of the best atmospheres around a soccer game that I have seen in a really long time. The energy between the two teams, the tension, the Emily Sonnet, Trinity Rodman argument, Rowdy, Tara McKeown, all of it, I thought was as good a moment as we've had. So now you up the ante with the final, and I say that in saying the marketing people win. Gotham, Washington is now probably considered a rivalry.
Yeah, the biggest thing I hope is the fans travel. Yeah, because both of these teams have pretty good fan bases, but as you said, it's a cross-country trip. You and I were at the final last year when it was, at this neutral site in Kansas City. The home team didn't host, and there were times where the atmosphere felt a little blasé. Yeah. And that's the one thing that the supporters group can really get behind. And if I were Michelle Kang and I would like to spend money, I would do something to make sure I got some people there.
You are speaking my language on that one. I am team, if it's an advantage, take it. And if you want to spend money, get your fans out there. I do. So I know one of our producers at Kickback, Douglas, is a huge Washington Spirit fan. Went, I believe, to their game at Bay because it was the
Oracle Park one.
Yeah, I was like, I can't name the stadium. Baseball. Where they set the attendance record, was out there for it, and had said coming out of last year that he had pre-bought his trip no matter who was in the final, saying I didn't want to end up in a situation like I did last year. And I had such a great time. Yeah. It's such a great time. Like, why wouldn't I go if they're not in it anyway? So the fingers crossed is hopefully there's some some Washington fans who maybe learned their lessons from last year. And then on the Gotham side, it's the biggest city in the country. So there are normally people everywhere. I don't think there's a lack of Gotham fans in the Bay Area or LA or Seattle or Portland or whatever anyway, who could maybe make it a little closer. And then it would be really nice to see a huge influx of fans. Stadium will be a little bit smaller than it was in San Diego 2 years ago when they were in the final. Also as a low seed, because they love an underdog story and they do not love to be a favorite if they can avoid it. So we've got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about these two games. We have big news around Trinity Rodman that some, I don't know, fake news reporter tried to put out there. Yeah, right. Trying to get involved with some of the big stories. So we'll see if we'll maybe spend a little time on that. And then the Kansas City Current, who we thought we'd be watching play soccer this weekend for sure. I think a lot of people would have expected we'd be watching them play soccer next weekend as well. They were upset 2 weeks ago and then decided they weren't going to stay quiet, and they broke a bunch of news themselves, letting their general manager go, moving Vlatko Andonovski from head coach to head of sporting. They now have a coach opening. They've brought in a new GM as well. So a lot to talk about on that side of things as well. But Jordan, anything you want to promote for the week? Anything you're most excited about?
Well, it's big week, Goss. You know, the finals week, they cram so many things into this week. And I will be on the skills challenge again, which will be really fun. We're adding a new event, which I'm pumped. It's just such a fun event. You went to it last year. So if you're in San Jose, make sure you come out Friday night at San Jose State to come watch the skills competition. It's going to be on CBS over the weekend. I believe it's a Sunday airtime. And then breaking news, I will be hosting the NWSL award show on ESPN. Wow. Look at me.
You're going to do your open. You're going to do your open, your comedy routine.
Yeah. I have a lot of comedic, good timing, and I'm sure that I will have a script that will just make me sound a lot more funny than I am.
We know that you're a talented singer and actress, as we've seen on the show many times. So if the writers are looking for maybe a little bit of what should we bring in our ad, you could do a classic little 2-minute skit type thing.
Yeah. I mean, there might be some surprise things happening. So you're going to want to tune into that 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Wednesday. Yeah, just feel super blessed. I can't believe that is happening. So
well,
wild.
No one deserves it more. The voice and the face of NWSL, Jordan Angeli. That's why we love and feel very blessed as well that we get to have you here with us and talk about all of this. But let's talk about some soccer, because a bunch happened. A lot happened. If you're going to be, by the way, in the Bay Area at all this weekend because you like soccer, hit me up on Blue Sky. I will be in the area. I'll be getting in around Friday. As I mentioned, our producer Douglas is there. I believe Claudia Pagan, one of our own, will be there as well. You will be there. Mm-hmm. Brianna Pinto is in the Skills Challenge, so you will be seeing her there. So we will all be around. So shoot us a message, and hopefully we can meet up with as many people as possible. And Washington will be there. Coming into this game against Portland at home, fairly heavy favorites. There was a bunch of injury news that we had talked about coming out of the quarterfinals. Gabby Carl ends up being unavailable for this team. Tara McKeown, though, does get the start. And Washington, outside of that, feels like they've been getting healthier and healthier as every week has gone along. Trinity Rodman, once again, questionable on the bench, ends up getting in the game very, very late in this one. And then Portland are able to sort of roll out the same team. And, I said going into this game to Brianna last week, for Portland, they already know the game plan because it's the same thing against San Diego. It was 60-40 possession against them. They sat in. They tried to find their opportunities in transition. It was going to be harder because Washington was experienced, and I think Washington's a better team. Mm-hmm. And you go on the road. And I think for me, the big fear was how does Washington handle this responsibility to take the game, control the game, push the game? And I just thought they were incredible coming out of the gate. I felt like they played so loose and comfortable and fluid for a game of this level of importance that I don't think we've seen in NWSL in a while. Every playoff game is grind out 1-0. What's going to happen? And it felt like Croy Bethune pulling the strings. It was an August game for the first 25 minutes.
Before the game, actually 2 weeks ago, right? Because I wasn't on last week. I was just talking about how Adrian Gonzalez just really does a really good job of matching his tactics to exploit the opponent. And it looks different. And I think it looked a little different just due to availability in this game. But I loved the setup with two really attacking-minded 10s, having Croy and Lacey Santos back in there, putting Kawasi, Monday, and Cantore all out on the field, and then just saying, hey, we're going to stabilize with 3 center backs in playing Morgan as a quote-unquote right back. And it's going to allow Wiesner to get forward. I just thought that he hit the nail on the head, because then Bernal at times could go into the midfield and help out and stabilize there if need be. But in watching that last game that Portland played against San Diego at home, they won the game because of how good they were defensively. They didn't threaten an attack. And I think Gonzalez was like, all right, well, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at you and see if you can figure it out and handle it. And this game could have been a lot more goals for the Washington Spirit, because you're right. They came out flying, and it looked fun for them. They were really enjoying it, enjoying the atmosphere, and they get the rightful win. This one felt a little bit better than I think other games over the weekend. But it was a rightful win for Washington because they looked amazing.
And what you said, the culture they've built, the setup they've built. I mean, post game, Trinity Rodman running over to get Adrian Gonzalez out of the interview with Claudia, who handled it as well as a professional would and becomes this epic viral moment, but also shows the relationship, right? And the connection that the players have to the coach. Mm-hmm. And it came up around our coach of the year conversation, but like you could argue what he's done over the last 2 years is easier because he hasn't been the head coach the whole time, but is probably harder because he has managed this situation where Jonathan Heraldes came in late and left early. Mm-hmm. Adrian Gonzalez is the one who's there every day. He's the one who has to be engaging the players and making them feel comfortable with what their future looks like and what the environment around them is. And he's done so while always getting results at the time. One of the sort of, I don't know, pushbacks is the right term, but questions have been like, okay, but like, what's his true style? What's his game model? What is the game he believes in? And I think that's a little bit fluid, which when we're going to talk about Juan Carlos Omeros, maybe is just a Spanish soccer thing that we should start to get used to. But it felt like in this game, and my worry there of like, okay, how will they push this? That wasn't a negative. That was a positive. It was like, okay, this week you are emboldened to take chances. Wiesner, take players on. Mm-hmm. Go after the game. Obviously, Rose Kouassi is going to do the same. I felt like even how Hirschfeld getting into the attack those opening 20, 30 minutes was feinting players, taking an extra touch, just moving the game around in a way that felt really, really comfortable. But all of it flows out of Croy Bethune. And whether it's her feet, her movement, I just think it's her presence and the way she's playing right now, where everyone else is just buzzing off of her as a hive. And this is what we were robbed of last year when she got hurt for the playoffs. And you could just see the difference in who this team is now a year later.
How many times did she get the ball on the half turn in the midfield right next to the six or sixes? Because there was times where Fleming would drop a little bit deeper too to try to help out Sam Coffey, but it felt like the center backs knew the task. And the task was to break lines and find Croy in a pocket so she could turn and create with a plethora of options in front of her. It's joyful to watch. Like she is the reason you watch soccer. When the ball is at her foot, you just don't know what is going to happen. And I think that's one of the most the best places to be, because you're on the edge of your seat thinking, all right, what is she going to do now? Like there was a time where they're in the corner, I think it's her and Lacey Santos and maybe Cantore, and they're just like dinking the ball around people. And I'm thinking, what? You guys are just like, it's like a cat playing with a toy, you know? Like it was just so fun to watch. Probably not fun to play against, but no. I'm excited we get to see that in the final. Yeah. Like that is what a final should have. And it feels like she's just consistently from that injury gotten better and better all season long and is really peaking at the perfect time.
She's so confident to call her own number that she's taking shots from distance. She's attacking defenders that people then have to commit to her in places, but she's not so focused that she only does that. And there were multiple times, especially in the first half of this game before the goal gets scored, where like second balls popped out to her at the top of the box or something got laid off and you're like, just smack it. Like it's not only you're good and confident, but like sometimes it's the safer thing to do because a bad pass, now you're exposed, you're open. And she's finding Gift Monday in these pockets that I can't see on TV 10 seconds after she's already done it. You're like, where was that? There was no lane there. She's dinking balls over to Rose Kouassi making the run up the wing. Like just the way she's spreading the game and the balance she has of calling her own number and distributing makes her unplayable.
She also, I think this is underrated in her game, but she allows Washington Spirit to press differently because the way she covers ground, if they're in that mid block and they jump into a high press, it's not really how they scored a goal, but it's her press on the goal, how she scores from just sprinting out, putting pressure on Sam Hyatt so that back pass isn't great. She covers ground really easily, and because of that, Washington can play in where I think they're best is in like not a full high press, but this like mid block to jumping high press, and they're the best. And with the players that are around her and the speed that they have to go with her, they can bring the ball into a pocket, win it up high, and then keep pressure on. It's not always resulting in a goal, but I think the relentlessness just wears teams down, and they're going to need that in this game against Gotham in the final.
And I think then when you put that mix in with the flexibility of so many of the players across this team, like I think they've really landed on something special with Monday and Cantore. They're both okay dropping in. They're both okay being in the channels. And so it's like the mid block starts with 2 up top in the channels, and they're not always pressing on the same trigger. And so it's really hard to decipher as an opponent of what you're going to get each time. Is Rose Kwasi going to come really high? Is Bernal going to step into midfield? And now Lacey Santos steps up another player. Like, and it felt like that calculation Portland couldn't figure out. And then they were behind, and Portland was going to struggle to create chances anyway. But you are talking about one of the best midfields in the league, like genuinely one of the best central midfields in the league. And the ability to go and press them and create the game is really, really impressive. On the goal, there's 2 things mainly I want to talk about on the goal for both teams. But let's start with Washington. You talked about like the reason you watch the sport is because of a player like a Corey Bethune. We did this with the Marta run last week. Like this was almost a non-soccer play, where it was like the energy and buildup of it was so long because Rose Kwasi makes the run from so deep that it was this like, it felt like an NFL run or something like it. It's an unbelievable play, and it's one of those plays where a lot of players don't even think they're going to win their initial ball and get there. A lot of players, if the contact gets that close, and I'm not saying it was a foul, maybe they go down just to be like, okay, let's earn a foul. Let's get out of here. And then most players at the end of that run don't have the awareness to slide the ball to a teammate and create an easier chance rather than the close angled shot. This is a player who we have been amazed by since she came into the league, and we didn't think it would be this quick. And now you're in a year where you don't know if Trinity Rodman's healthy, and Rose Kwasi is a game changer for you. And like this was her crowning achievement moment in a year where she's had 3 game winners in stoppage time already.
Remember when she came into the league, Goss, and we're like, where are they going to play this
that's
player?
A future signing. She'll be a factor in 2 or 3 years. They'll develop her. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Rose Kwasi, speed kills. And I think that's the first thing I think when this play develops is like, if you have that speed, you have to utilize it. And both of the players that have game-changing speed were on the same page and said, let's go for a run. Like, and you said it felt like forever. I was like, oh my gosh, she's running so fast, you know? Maybe it's because I just wasn't fast as a player.
No,
so.
I agree with you. It's just, it was 85 yards of it.
Yeah. Did you feel like it should have been like, she could go? Oh,
exactly.
No way she passes it.
It's also one of those things with speed kills where when you're watching professional sports, everyone's a great athlete.
Right.
And there are these moments like this where it's not uncommon to see in a D1 game or a youth game or a youth international game where it's like there's space on the field for great athletes because the others aren't there. Normally that space doesn't exist in pro games because everyone is going to close that space down. And this is the type of run where you're like, well, someone's going to close her down at some point.
Right.
And that part never came.
I know. Well, you got to credit Spanstra. She nearly stayed with Gift Monday and was close to getting something on that. But yeah, I think for Portland, they had just had a little bit of the ball, and they got a little comfy cozy and like, all right, in this set piece, we're gonna be a little bit more aggressive because this might be where we can win the game. And so just because of that, like your guard goes down a little bit, and the playoffs are games of moments, like little baby decisions that you make. Torpy should have taken her out.
Yes.
You know, like could one player have stayed a little bit deeper? Is there a better challenge on the ball? There's so many little things that lead to this being a goal on the other side, but you can't discredit Washington for understanding that there was space to exploit and they went for it.
And then everyone's going. Like, it's not just Monday. When you look at the highlight, everyone's on their horse like, yeah, we're out.
Like McKeown was like the first one to hug.
Celebrate, yeah. Because everyone looks up and they're like, we're going. And that's to Washington's credit, which is they're an unbelievable transition team. People don't let them in transition because of that. And the moment they like can smell it, everyone's like, oh, now we're going. Everyone's there. Everyone's pretty connected. Everyone's together on like what they do. But also, I think to your point, I don't know that this question was asked, but like you have to think Washington maybe had a combo where it's like Portland's best chance to beat us is on set pieces. When they take set pieces, can we take advantage? And it feels like everyone was ready to go. And you like that this is one that kind of drives me nuts because on your own set piece, the concede is so brutal. And like,
I know,
like what's your rest defense plan? It just felt like after
preventable
Kawasi got by Torpy, there was no one else in the play. And I don't understand how that happens. And then on top of that, what's the conversation of where this is going to be taken? Because if you take a near post corner kick and it was elevated, but it was headed away at the near post, that going the other way is the quickest the team can break out against you. So like if you're saying as a team, okay, let's play this near post, whatever, 2 hands go up, that means it's going near post, whatever that is, then the rest defense has to be set up so that you are prepared for this to occur the other way. And whether they fell asleep or someone made an individual mistake or it was this like, this is our one, like these are going to be our one chances. But all of that is to the credit of Washington, which is they put you under that pressure mentally coming into the game, thinking that that's the situation. And the goal was huge because, you know, you start to get into the 35th, 40th minute. It's like, okay, it's going to be a playoff game. They're going to dominate. They're not really going to score. It's going to be 1-0 at best. Are we headed to PKs? Like, and I think that took, even though Washington failed to put the final nail in the coffin for as long as they did, it still felt like, okay, the relief can come now, and now they can play their game off the back of having the 1-0 lead.
Yeah, and they did. They just kept going. And I think Portland made some adjustments, maybe a little too late, bringing in Torden, or could they? I know Lori was asking just to switch Castellanos and Turner. I thought when Portland did that in the previous game against San Diego, they were much more successful as well. And, you know, a little bit too slow in making some of the adjustments that they made. And you can't be on the back foot against this Washington team because they have so many weapons that can hurt you. And I thought one of the things that can help you be a championship team is who comes off the bench for you. And I think in both of the games we saw bench players really make a difference. In this one, to bring in Abby Oden as play out the game, solid central midfielder, wins balls, but also is so good at distribution. Like, what a luxury.
Unreal. Yeah. It's a player that many other teams would have their midfield built around, which is like the whole thing. What about having the ability to play Kate Weisner as your, third left back of the season? Because Casey Kruger is on maternity leave. That's an international.
Yeah.
Gabby Carl gets injured. We had a conversation about Defender of the Year finalist for Gabby Carl and as a Canadian international.
Yeah.
And you continue to go down that list and you continue to get game-breaking, difference-making performances. It's a huge credit to Terry McKeown, is able to play in this game and is such a difference maker at left center back to just fill the space that's there.
Yeah. And just since you mentioned Wiesner, I'm gonna say I think she helped just keep the pressure on so well, especially in the first half, because if Spancher's gonna get the ball, she wants it at her feet and she wants to dribble inside, and it felt like Wiesner would take the ball away. Wiesner would take the ball away. Wiesner would take the ball away. And so she just timed really well in stepping into that space to continue that pressure for Washington Spirit and just the dominance that they had. Like, it really didn't feel like Portland was in this game.
No, it did not. It didn't feel like Portland was the 3 seed of all the teams that were left in this game. I would like to throw out
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
that Gotham is an 8 seed in all of this, and Portland are a 3 seed. Wiesner was taken in the first round of the 2024 draft, in the same round as Corey Bethune and Hal Hirschfeld. That is like absolutely insane. They basically rebuilt their team in one draft. And then that doesn't include, I think Stainbrook was taken in that draft as well. McKenna Morris.
Courtney Brown.
Yeah, McKenna Morris, who's now in Louisville. But I think started in the final last year. Did McKenna Morris start? Because of the injuries? Or played a bunch last year.
Stainbrook started, right? I don't know if Morris started.
Yeah. It goes from League On players in Kouassi, internationals in Sofia Cantori, Rebecca, like they've built this roster every single way you can build it. They've got clearly a great culture going. the Adrian Gonzalez stuff with Trinity Rodman coming over to get him, like that is, I don't know, for some people maybe felt even better than seeing her get on the field because of the news that has come out around her. Otherwise, in her connection to the club and all of that, the final count on the underlying numbers, which are not the most important thing, was 3.11 XG for Washington, which is one of the highest numbers I've seen all year, to 0.31 to Portland. It was a 2-0 game. It was every bit a 2-0 game. Rowdy delivers once again. Washington, so that's now 4 playoff wins in a year, like in a 12-month span at that stadium. It has become an atmosphere, one of the best in the world. It's become kind of a known thing, and that's something that will continue to be helpful for this team. Similar when we talked with Chris Long on the kickback committee 2 weeks ago, and it's like people want to come here. People want to play here. People, when they play against us, and then we reach out and say, what's your contract status look like? What do you want to do? Like, people remember that. And I think that will be the case for Washington for a long time going forward. Big picture for this team. Back-to-back finals. Like, what does this run mean? What does this moment mean for the Washington Spirit?
And it's been through a lot of like instability, right? Like instability. There's the word. I'll get there, right? I don't talk for a living or anything. I think with the changes in coaches, the number of players that they've had in and out of the lineup, they have found a way to be successful. And they've built this team really well. You just talked about how they built it. I think credit needs to go to Krikorian, who helped them really solidify who this team was going to be. And it feels like with this Washington team, over these last 2 years and in the future with Gonzalez, with Kang, with the players that they have, we could see them really dominate this league. Like it feels like it's a long game for them, and they continue to slowly build and integrate players with that fit perfectly in the system that they said. Like Kentori comes over in the summer and you're thinking, oh, this is definitely a 9. And she's playing as a 9 or as an 11 or tucked inside, like they just find a way to get the best out of the players that they have. And to me, that feels like the future is there's a really high ceiling for this team.
Yeah. The process clearly works, and the process works across all those different categories, whether it's scouting college, scouting international, and then the integration process of making players feel comfortable, fit in, understand on and off the field what's expected of them, what their opportunity is. And as you said, they're going to be around for a while. Like, whether it's just the individuals, like, is Hal Hirschfeld going to play for this team for the next 10 years? Maybe. Is Tara McKeown? Maybe. And that is alone a spine that you can build good teams off of. But it's clear that if that's not the case, the process to find the next ones, to bring in Rebecca Bernal, to bring in Kentori to replace Ule Sar, who hasn't played for this team in over a year, and was one of the 3 leading goal scorers in the league when she got hurt last year, and was the team leading goal scorer, and was replaced by Ashley Hatch, who's on maternity leave. And like, the ability for this team to continue to fill those roles, they also seem set up and poised to take advantage of whatever the salary structure looks like going forward, which I think is a really big thing for them, not just specific to the Trinity Rodman conversation, but like, if you take off any of the controls, like, they can just re-sign everyone on long-term contracts and then bring in, whatever they feel like they need to fill, where other teams would be like, okay, how do we scale up? How do we build out? This team has an international at every position and then backups at those positions as well. For Portland, we'll talk about them more big picture, because we're going to do a big offseason preview after the NWSL Championship game for every single team. I'll just say, for me, picked them last place coming into the season because of all the injuries that they had. 5 players lost this season on the season-ending injury list at one point or another. And Rob Gale, who was an interim coach last year, his first year as a head coach, they finished as a 3 seed. They won a home playoff game, and they went and lost on the road in a place that 3 other teams have done the same thing in the postseason. There's nothing to hang your head about, even though the gap was obvious in this game. I think overall you have to walk away with a good feeling, but there are massive question marks around one big name in Sophia Wilson and some of the other pieces of where this team stands. But they re-signed Olivia Moultrie to the long-term contract, and it feels like they have moved in the right direction, maybe faster than would have expected.
And Coffey signed to a longer-term deal too, a little bit earlier in the season. The biggest takeaway I think I have of this Portland team is they finished third. Like, this team is unified in who they are, like, as the actual players. They really like each other and they get along really well. And they have talked about how this is the tightest locker room that they have. That is important. That'll win you games. And so then if you add in players who are game-changing players coming back from either maternity leave or long-term injury, like I got to see Morgan Weaver, who is running and doing great things back in Portland and hopeful to get back on the field soon. You bring in players like that, and Marie Mueller, Nicole Payne, outside backs who affect the way that this team plays. If you like each other, you're going to fight for each other, and this team clearly proved that. And so that is my biggest takeaway from this Portland team is that's a really strong. They've built a foundation at which they can build on going forward.
And I made the comparison last week with Louisville and Bay the year before, which was like they both made late runs, got in the playoffs, lost in heartbreaking extra time fashion, PKs to Washington, and then Bay didn't bounce off that this year, right? It fell back down. If you want to put Portland in that conversation as well, it feels so young that I would be shocked if it doesn't continue to develop, because these players as individuals are going to continue to develop. But if the culture is good, and I think based off the contract from Moultrie, they want to be a part of this and they want to be around this. Rylan Turner is going to continue to get better. I think Jaden Perry should be a starter next year and should continue to get better. Kaya Hanks was out this year as well and was a phenom when she was on the field. Torden, who I thought should have been on the field maybe from the start or earlier, as another young player. Like, it feels like this team can get better, even if they don't have some huge addition or anything. And then the rest would be up to Sophia Wilson, where she chooses to play after this season.
Yep, I agree.
Shout out to Couture Criminal in the chat, who had a lot of those comments as well. The ability to rebuild on the fly without Kling, Becky in sync, plus Wilson coming back to reach the semis with the squad. Incredible job by Rob Gale, who, of course, his first year as full-time head coach. And Portland and Orlando have to give credit to them, says Gabrielle, who I agree with, for both of those teams. Before we get to Gotham, Orlando. So a certain Tom Bogert put out news report. I think he is a video game player or something like that.
Never heard of him.
Put out a report on Saturday. Was it, or Friday? I can't even remember now.
I think it was Saturday.
Yeah. So the day of the game for this Washington team, saying that there is a belief that Trinity Rodman's time in NWSL might be up. Some of the big teams in Europe, Chelsea noted, I think PSG, Lyon mentioned as well. Some of the biggest clubs in the world are in talks with her, and that NWSL has entered the conversation themselves, trying to help secure her rights to stay in the league. What is your reaction to this? And what do you sort of take away most, I'd say, from all of this? Because we've known her contract's up. We've known she travels. We know she went and rehabbed in Europe. We know Ben Shelton plays tennis in a lot of different countries. We know she is one of the biggest names in the sport in the world. So there's like not a lot new in this, and yet it felt a little bit different maybe coming at this point of the year.
I just feel like a lot of things, because if you're NWSL, Alyssa Thompson is a big name, but Trinity Rodman is a bigger name. I think everywhere. Like, everybody knows the name Rodman. People that don't know soccer are watching Trinity Rodman or see her or have now been connected with her because she's dating Ben Shelton. Like, she's kind of blurred the lines of sports
and celebrity.
Yeah. It just feels like they need to do whatever they can to keep her in this league. And I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that is going to it's not general counsel. What's the people that sit on the board of governors? There we go. I knew it had a G in it. Board of governors. I would imagine there is a lot of conversation about how can we keep these types of players in this league and do it in a way that is like a DP contract in MLS, right? Doesn't count against the salary cap, because I think Trinity Rodman playing in this league is, one, it's going to benefit her because the defenders in this league are better than defenders in any other league. So she's going to have to get better. It's 2 years now a year and a half before a World Cup, and the United States are going to want to do whatever they can to avenge their World Cup. And so you want one of your best players playing in the best league possible. But if you're Trinity Rodman, she's going to have the same thoughts as Alyssa Thompson. Go get your money, go play in Champions League, and do something that is a new experience. So I think that I can see both sides of things. I just feel like it would be really detrimental to the league if she does not stay.
It's interesting because I feel the opposite about this one.
Ooh.
I think so. This will be Trinity Rodman's third final in 5 years in the league. If they win, it will be her second championship.
Right.
She left California, went to Texas for college, came to Washington, D.C., has made it home.
No, she never went to college.
She didn't play at UT for a year? Did I just make that up?
No. She was going to go to Washington State, and she didn't. She ended up going straight pro.
Wow. I made up all of this in my head?
Well, there is a Trinity that went to UT, so maybe that's...
Wow. I just made that up. So moved cross country. There you go. Moved across the continent and played in a whole different setup in a whole different region. My point being, I think she's accomplished a lot of things, and this is what's next for her. And I think that's okay. Like, outside of the 4 or 5 players in any sport anywhere, you kind of always will have some level of what's next, unless you're the one person, unless I can't even think of an athlete, because LeBron James has moved 5 times. Like, people don't really stay places. So that part is like a little bit more explainable to me, where Alyssa Thompson, it was like, she doesn't feel like she's going to reach her level here. That is like a bad look that she feels that way. That she was living 20 minutes away from home and like all of that stuff. So this one's explainable, and therefore it feels less detrimental in terms of the image, but it's worse in terms of she's the reason people tune into games. She's the promo of the game. She's how you get people in the building for the first time. She is how you get people to know about the names of the teams, even, like, because that's, as you said, she's gone celebrity. She's such a big celebrity. That's the base level of all of this. To me, the worst part of all of this is if the entire barrier is money, then the league has made a mistake. If, Lindsay Heaps has said, I want to play. I had the moment. I did the H, and then I had the moment. I wanted to play in Champions League. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I think that's fine. And that will be the case for some athletes. And like you said, though, week to week, you are playing against better teams in NWSL than you are if you play for Chelsea or Lyon or PSG. So, like, you can't convince people if that's what they want, that's what they want. That's okay. Totally. If the barrier is totally money and that you just can't get paid what you are fairly worth in this league, then there's something wrong with the structure of the league, and you're going to bump up against that every single time then going forward.
And it feels like this has been the bumping point. Naomi Girma, Alyssa Thompson, and now Trinity Rodman. So I think what you're saying is very valid, and I like the way that you approach that. And I can also, I could really empathize with Trinity Rodman wanting to do something different and say, I can see her point of view as a player. Absolutely. So it's hard because I don't have like a clear-cut feeling about this is good or bad, because I think it could be good for her. I think it could be bad for the league, right? So it's kind of a mutual feeling.
Two of the other elements that are part of this. So one is, and someone put this in the chat, and I fully agree with this, is they said, still surprises me the league can attempt to interfere with a player's contract. The fact that this is the line is negotiating directly with NWSL is bad to me, because I would assume what Michelle Kang has built at Washington is just as professional and functional as anything NWSL can do. And this is now like NWSL throwing this late Hail Mary to try and get involved. And like, that is not professional and organized. That's not what I want, because that's not sustainable. And that's not a process that you want built in. And that's some of the stuff that MLS did early on. But I've said this over and over again. The two leagues are in two different worlds. MLS is fighting against other soccer leagues. NWSL is fighting against people being soccer fans for the first time. Like, NWSL is already at a tier that MLS was never at. And that's where these debates, I think, are interesting, which is like, they're not one for one just because they're two of the same sport in the same country. And then the other, of course, is the salary structure and what it looks like. I think DPs make sense because, to the other comment in the chat, which says fans are freaking out, look at English, German, and Spanish players moving. Like, this is the global transfer. And Katrin Berger plays in this league. Esther plays in this league. Rebecca Bernal plays in this league.
And
Talent
if you had
wants to come
DPs,
here.
you could get a Bon Mati. You could get you could get these big name players to come over here, Aputeas, because you could pay them what they're worth, and they could play and experience something very different from what they've experienced. I'm not saying you could get those exact players would come if they were paid the right money. Like, I think there's other things that go into the decision.
But you're in the running.
You're in the running. You're in the arena. And like, I think that's what NWSL, this is the best. This is the best league in the world. And I will say that. I think it challenges you. I think there is a lot more, I think the game is played really fast, but the integration of like some really good tactics over the last couple of years has made it a lot more entertaining. And you have to have problem solving to play in this league. And we see how different styles can be successful. And every single game is difficult. And if you want to be the best, you need to challenge yourself in those areas. But you're not going to, if you're a player from somewhere else, you're never going to be able to experience that, because if you're the best in the world, the salary cap just doesn't allow you to be valued at what you could be valued in other places.
And the part of the reason it's the best league in the world is because there is enough space inside of their salary cap to have really deep rosters. And because of that, the parity, there is a push for every team to try to compete at the same level. Where like Brighton has no thought that they're going to compete with Man City. That's not a world. So they're functioning in a different way, and those matchups are different. So most of this exists correct. Yeah. Now we are hitting a new problem, and you need a new answer to that question. And that's where we're talking about this other extra spot where someone could say, okay, well, DPs, how many do you need? What is it like? We are talking about a 1% issue on this, and we've named 4 players that it applies to. And those are probably 4 of 20 players on the planet that would it apply to. But this is the problem that the league is being faced with right now. You have to come up with a solution for that issue.
Because then if you take those players off of your salary cap, you can get another like really high quality player in your roster that is just not quite that tier.
Right.
But it's taking that money that DP type player would previously be taking. So it opens up just even another spot of a high quality player to join your roster.
And the money is being spent for players in that. Casey's getting players to come in because they're spending money on medical and they're spending money on training. Like the arms race exists there to an extent. If you shift that to salary, players would come for the same reasons. And that's maybe something easier for a Racing Louisville to do to contend. This is one of the big picture conversations we'll continue to have in the offseason.
That was a long combo about that.
And talk about. Let's get into the next game, Gotham, Orlando. I think like we expected, toe-to-toe, cagey, a lot of quality in this one, but maybe less direction than we saw in the Washington-Portland game. The big news going into it, Esther's return out the gates. So in the starting lineup, second in the Golden Boot race, Golden Boot winner at the Euros, one of the best players in the world, and a huge addition for this Gotham team. I thought as this game played out, it was sort of 50-50 back and forth. I thought there was 2 big substitutions in the end that changed things. Is there anything you want to talk about from before that, the 65 minutes that I'm missing?
That's interesting. You thought it was 50-50 because I felt like Gotham just like, I was surprised how they showed up. I just didn't feel like they had, like, Orlando was winning all the second balls. They just looked a little bit more eager. It felt to me like they had more control of the game, and honestly should have been up 1-0 with a Ovalle chance. Like the ball, it was her left foot too. Like it bounced over her left foot. I don't know how. I actually don't know how that happened. Just like we'll get to later. I don't know where the free kick came from, but it was shocking to me that Orlando was not up at halftime, and unfortunately, they just have their self to blame in this one. It feels like to me.
I agree with that, but I thought that one, the chances were few and far between.
Yes,
I kind of expected that was the way Gotham showed up and would show up, I guess, a little bit more. And then the other thing is
just to let Orlando come at them.
Yeah, because I think that's what you saw in the Seattle game. Was like, okay, Orlando is going to play a little bit higher pressure. And also, it's not unsustainable because of the loss of Barbara Banda and maybe a couple less attacking outlets. And as long as you track your runners, because the whole game now was, will Haley McCutcheon or Ali Lamo or any of the midfielders pop up in an area? As long as you're tracking your runners, you can keep them in front of you for the most part. I thought the most dangerous portion of the game was Orlando's press.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that Gotham stuck to trying to play through it as long as they did. And we were a whisker away from Gotham going up 2-0 or going down 2-0, it felt like. But I thought a lot of that came when Simone Charlie came on the field.
Yeah.
I thought her ability to lead the press changed for Orlando, and they started to play higher, and they started to trap Gotham. And Lily Real was under a ton of pressure on the build-outs in awkward positions, but kept trying to play it. And we were it felt like sitting on this precipice for a 25-minute span in that second half where it's like, well, someone's going to make a mistake one way. Either either Orlando's going to get broken or Gotham's going to make a mistake. And it just never really broke through.
Yeah, it was Charlie, but it was also Ayane coming in as well, because the combination of those two put Lily Real in this pickle, and she looked like she was in a pickle. Like, where do I go? I think that was
half sour, dill. It was all going on.
I mean, definitely dill, maybe spicy, but it was a place where I don't think we've seen Lily Real in since she's been in NWSL. One of the most consistent players in the back line for Gotham this year, and a rookie, but she looked, in that start of the second half, looked lost in moments. Like, I actually don't know what to do. She was biting, and then the ball would go beyond her, and then Carter would have to come out to the channel, or she was staying back, and then they would just play around her. Her decision-making, you could tell she was just overwhelmed in that moment. And this is what I mean for Orlando. Like, Gotham didn't have a shot on goal until they scored the goal. They didn't have a shot on goal. And not like Orlando had a bunch, but Orlando had, if Orlando would have won this game, it would have felt like, oh, okay, to me, they deserve to win the game.
Yes, over the course of 90 minutes, they were more aggressive and they were more dangerous.
Yeah, but I really liked, I think credit to Seb Hines and the way that he knows this team, and he just recognized, okay, let's stay in it for the first 45, see what we can do. And then, I think Doyle injury pushed his hand on Charlie, but the Oyane halftime sub, they said, okay, we could be a little bit more aggressive and we can really get after them. So I thought that was a really smart tactical shift from him.
And, the change with Doyle is Doyle kind of drops out of the center forward position more, which opens up for Marta or now McCutcheon to make those runs, where Charlie holds that space. But then that gave them this central focus on and off the ball of like, okay, this is where the attack can run through. She's occupying center backs. I thought because of Real's struggles, I thought Jalen Howell started to drop deeper. But then that opened up more opportunity for Orlando to play higher.
Yeah.
So that all worked kind of in unison.
There were moments where I was like, Gotham's midfield has to push up a little.
I thought she was Emily Sonnet like 3 or 4 times.
My
I'm like,
goodness.
Emily Sonnet came across the field to cover this. And you're like, oh, no, that's Howell playing in this like left center back spot.
Oh, my gosh. And then I was just thinking, because we already knew that Washington was going to the final, I was like, this is not good if they play this deep when they play the Spirit.
Yeah, it is going to be a big test for them. And I thought then the addition of Hasbo really helped, because I thought not only did she bring a little bit of calm to that midfield and a little bit of positional security, I think it also opened up the game to be easier for Shaw.
Who did she come in for again?
She came in for Porchio, and then they pushed Jaden Shaw out wide. And we had Brianna Pinto on the show, who played with Jaden to start the year, and I was like, what'd you see from her in the KC game? And she said she looked like she was having fun. It looked free. She's special. And I don't dislike playing her centrally. Like, I think the responsibility makes her good, and I think she's comfortable with it. But it just felt like in the way the game played out, it opened up, and then you started to see the space Alane was leaving become a bit of an issue. And now there was a release to some of the pressure for the first time in a 20-plus minute span.
In this Gotham system, I like Shaw out wide because it feels like when she plays wide, she has more freedom to occupy the space centrally that she wants to go into, but she comes at it like meeting into the space, like carrying herself into the space, where when she's central, she doesn't often drift wide. Yeah. Right. So she's staying centrally. So when she plays wide, she almost can play in two positions, where I don't know what it is. And maybe it's just playing in that system. She just hasn't found the freedom within that central 10 role to kind of drift wherever she wants to, because she can. Like, I'm sure they'll just let her drift wherever she wants to.
Yeah. And it felt really big to keep them in the game. And then, of course, the free kick comes. So there's like a few factors to talk about in all of this. One is the free kick. Two is the fact that Jaden Shaw, the youngest player on the field and the newest player on the field,
said, I got this,
is the one taking it. It starts, though, with a question around the actual foul.
What happened?
It wasn't the first time. There was 2 or 3 in the second half where someone stumbled and the whistle blew. And it was like, oh, just because someone's on the ground doesn't mean there's a foul. And it was like a 50-50 that wasn't really a 50-50. And whoever was on the ball for Gotham tried to turn out of it, lost possession, fell down.
Ovalle.
And
Ovalle take a long touch. Oh, that was before?
Yes.
Okay,
I thought that it was Rose or whoever trying to turn to go forward, but wasn't in possession. And then there's a player on the ground and the whistle goes. It was not the first time that a call like that happened in the game. And it's really, really unfortunate. It does not like excuse what happened to me. This is not, they got robbed, because you got to deal with the situation after that better.
No, totally. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is like, this is a game of moments. And just before this foul got called, Ovalle got called for a foul at half field, and I think was frustrated with that foul call or offside or something. And she's like staring the ref down, and they show her pretty like a close up of her. And you could tell she's just like rattled, like frustrated, maybe loses it a little bit. And then it's a heavy touch from her, a foul from her. And now you're in a place where, like, if you don't stay focused in those moments, it's 1 or 2 mistakes that oftentimes lead to a goal. And to me, it was unfortunate, because it felt like, it was very evident those 3 things happened to her really quickly. And I still don't think it's a foul. So I will stand on that. I think we need a reverse angle or something from the other side to see what was really happening, because there's too many bodies around there. But it doesn't excuse it. And I would be interested to hear a goalkeeper's perspective on this set piece. So should I just call Jill real quick?
Well, I was going to say, we should have called Jill Lloyd in for this one.
Should I call her and see if she answers?
You can see if she picks up.
Okay.
So from a non-goalkeeper point of view, my first thing is 3 in a wall at that moment from that distance does not feel like enough. Okay. You've played as a defender, so it's not your responsibility to make that decision. But like 3 in the wall did not feel like what you're doing with a 95th minute free kick on the edge of the 18.
With those 2 on the ball.
And obviously the wall is okay. If you're going to shoot, you have to shoot it over them, and it has to be perfect. And so Morehouse is now on the side of that wall, waiting for the free kick. And so the point of the size of that wall is how much of the goal the keeper has to get across if the ball goes over. But because of the distance, if you add 2 more players on the side of that, then the ball that Shaw plays has to be outside the far post.
Right.
And so it either has to be a looping header back, or it has to be a shot to the far post, which has to then get over the wall, which closes the window to what Morehouse has to mark. And with the Gotham players on the top of the box, if you have an extended wall, the person on the left is the one who goes to close down if they play it square, which is like a reasonable fear, but that's how you handle that. It just felt very odd to me. And then once it's set up that way, I don't know what else Morehouse is going to do. You've got runners coming across. The ball comes in from 18 yards away. Like, it's unfortunate the way it went in, but if it takes a touch, Morehouse has to be ready to go back across. And like, that's just, you're at that point, you're stuck.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point with the wall that I hadn't thought of. Like, it just needed to be a bigger wall. Because then you
Three
can't play.
players is what you do when it's 35 yards away.
Yeah. And regardless of who's shooting that, like, Rose could go near post, Jaden could go far post, and you at least need to give Morehouse the opportunity to see the ball over a wall to try to get there, and you just are making it that much more difficult on the shooter. But I thought the runners across the face were really, perfectly timed, and it just, that's exactly what you want if you're in that position. If you're Jaden Shaw, you're thinking, this is a shot cross. If this cross doesn't hit anybody, it's going in the back of the net, and you practice that. I love how she gave a shout out to her goalkeeper coach afterwards, Brody, who said it was just hyping her up the day before, saying like, you got this, you're going to score a set piece goal. So, great execution. And this is what the best teams do, is they find a way, even when the game did not prove that they should have won, they figure out a way to say, it doesn't matter, we're going to win anyways.
And frustration from Orlando fans, one in the chat right now, about Anna Morehouse and the way she goes about trying to make the save. As I said, it's a tough spot. It is bad form, and we have seen from her sometimes the technique goes away, but like makes big saves. And I say all of that in saying the reason, and Jill will tell us this over and over again, that you care about that technique is when it turns into muscle memory, like it has to be there. And then we go down the other end of the field. And like at this point, there's no way a play could outdo what we just saw. And then Ann Katrin-Berger makes, I don't know, the save of the year, the save of all time in the league. This is one of the great saves in soccer history. It's the final kick, basically, of an elimination game that you just scored on. And the extension's correct. The hard step, the power step from her is correct. To be able to get back across her own body on a deflected free kick, so you don't have time to see where it's coming from, and then the strength to punch that ball away. Because if it's just a touch and it drops, someone's then cleaning that up and putting it in the back of the net. It was unbelievable. Like my jaw was on the ground the last 10 minutes of that game.
The best goalkeepers can make up for like maybe a misstep, or I think she took a misstep. I think she steps out first. And so that's why she's coming
to claim it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's taking a big drop step, and like, I swear her arm stretched. It got longer in that moment.
Michael Jordan
to punch
in
the ball
Space Jam.
away. But yeah, Space Jam, AKB. And it's not just like she like just batted it away. She still had the power going backwards to like punch it clear of any second danger. Her save in the Euros was unreal, and this rivals it. It was, I at that point I was listening to it on the radio because I had to go somewhere, and nobody had scored, so I was like, I could get to wherever I'm going,
and then watch extra time in PKs.
And just listening, it was Joe Lloyden on the call on Sirius, and it was crazy. You just knew that I couldn't wait to get back to see the clip of what it was, and it was worth rewatching it a few times.
Yeah, I put out on Blue Sky, that's the best finish to a game maybe ever, just because the magnitude of both
and we needed it after that 90 minutes.
For sure. Like, you could go watch those highlights and be like, okay, you experienced the game, which throughout it was tense and you felt it. And like you said, with the flow of the play, like, it didn't feel unfair for Orlando to get that goal. And I will say, on the step from Berger, like, I don't know that well, again, we're not experts. I don't know that she's totally wrong in that. High ball comes in. My first thing is I want the goalkeeper to come out and punch her claim, right? Like, if it's inside, if it's within 10 to 12 yards. So I don't mind that first step was there because it was a bit of a whip ball. Then as it drops, that's when she starts to come back.
Yeah.
And then the flicked on header, and when you watch, it's like, oh, that's that perfect header. Like you could feel it.
So you're saying it's not a mistake. It was the right thing. She just then had to
I don't know.
The next best play.
Yeah. I've never trained the goalkeeper, but my point,
I get that.
Like your first instinct, the ball gets lifted, and if it's up high, I'm stepping forward because I'm going to go get it. And then the quick realization of I can't get there. Mm-hmm. And so then she's got to get back into position and cover as much as she can and all of that. It was outrageous. And you said it 2 weeks ago when we went into the KC Gotham game of like, oh, what's going to happen? It's like, if Roosevelt's healthy, they've got a chance. Gotham has match winners. Ann Katrinberger's a match winner. Jaden Shaw's a match winner. Roosevelt's a match winner. And now they are into the final for the second time in 3 years, which, first of all, the final 2 years ago at this point feels like 170 years ago. It just feels like the longest distance, especially for Gotham, of like, they won. They became this super team. The super team lost. The super team fell apart. They started to rebuild. Then they did rebuild. Or they're in the process of rebuilding, and now they're back into a final. Is absolutely incredible. Let's talk about that. But real quick, Marta, her comment after the game was like, it can't end this way. So the assumption is she is coming back. She looks fully capable of doing that. Yeah. She has been maybe the best player on the field for the last 2 weeks in NWSL playoff games. My assumption is she will, at this point, at a minimum, play at the 2027 World Cup at home in Brazil.
She posted something on Instagram today about next season.
Yeah.
So I think we're good there.
So we feel safe. So now that we can all feel
she signed a new contract at the end of the year, right? I guess she could just retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. No, I don't think that's happening.
Good.
That makes me still sprint for 100 yards and win insane. A penalty, and
it's insane.
Yeah, no, she's good. She can't do that to us now.
But she will not be at PayPal Park on the field, at least at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday in San Jose. Both Gotham and Washington, the team, players, fans, they're all going to get their frequent flyer miles going all the way across the country for this big game. So the two teams faced off twice this year in regular season play. It was 0-0 on August 9th, and Gotham won 3-0 all the way back in April, so not super relevant to what's going on. And, of course, we talked about the playoff game last year. Gotham took the lead. They tried to hang on. They tried to hold on. It was Brunina's second yellow, red card, taking Rodman down on the sideline that led to the brouhaha, Emily Sonnet getting in her face. We had someone in the chat say they want an Emily Sonnet Marta podcast because the two just kept chatting and catching up all game. I think Emily Sonnet co-podcast with pretty much anyone in the league would probably be a pretty good show. Mm-hmm. But that led to
just mic them up all games, and then that could be the podcast.
And that could be the podcast.
Game chat.
Game talk. And then we had, of course, the drama, late goals, all the other stuff last year in that game. When you look at the matchup right now, where it stands going into this playoffs, what's like the first thing that pops in your head? What are you thinking about?
For keys to this game?
Yeah.
You mentioned it. There's game changers on either team, and I just hope we see goals. I hope we see a Gotham team who's a little bit better with possession in some of the areas that they weren't against Orlando, because they're going to have to be against Washington. The one thing that sticks out to me for Washington that they're going to have to be aware of if they set up the same that they did against Portland is I felt like all of Portland's, now granted, they weren't great chances, but when Olivia Moultrie got the ball, when Castellanos got the ball, it was always on their left side, Washington's right side. And that's where Esme Morgan was playing. She tucks in a little bit more, so there's space wide for Gotham to occupy. Maybe you start Jaden Shaw wide, and you allow her to do that, to pull Esme Morgan around, leave space for an attacking outside back to help get into the attack. I think that's going to be a really critical space for Washington to defend better than they did against Portland, because those chances that they gave away to Portland, if Gotham get those chances, it's either good looks on goal or a quick combination centrally then from that space going centrally that they can threaten. So that's one of the spaces that I just feel like is going to have to be key for Washington.
I assume that Trinity Rodman won't be starting in this game. She's played 1 minute now over the course of the playoffs, which means that it will be the back five again, and Rose Kawasi will be that right wing back. So my assumption is that it will be the same setup for this Washington team, which Gotham can then game plan into, as you said. The one concern with that for me, and I think as well, I'd start Hasbo and I'd start Shaw out wide, is when Shaw comes inside, Lily Reel's not a natural left back. Right. You don't have a ton of width and verticality. I don't know that you'll have a lot of time to get those players forward anyway with the game state that this will be. And I think having Shaw come inside isn't then an overload, because now you've got extra numbers when she wants to, and Esther dropping in, and then Purse gives you a little bit of the width along the other side. I think that's probably Gotham's best setup and best opportunity to create those moments that you just talked about. And it gives you then enough numbers in central midfield to be around Croy Bethune and Lacey Santos, because that's sort of the threat that's always sitting there for you.
For Gotham, that was going to be one of the things that I mentioned. Is we just talked about how deep they sat. You don't want to sit too deep against this Washington team, because those players can just pull off the midfield line into space, and now you're running at them, almost like chasing them, and they can combine with their ability. Santos and Croy Bethune are two of the best players in quick combination. So I think you want to play a little bit. You don't want. They can't get so deep in their midfield line, because I don't think they're gonna. I think they're going to be sitting a lot and defending a lot, because of how good Washington has proven that they can be with possession. And you just can't, you have to manage the space between your lines and make sure you're getting good quality pressure on those players as they build through the middle.
Yeah. I think that where Gotham finds its moments to connect a little bit and play a little bit higher is going to be huge. Esther's presence is massive for that. Like, you can play it up to her. She can hold possession. She'll drop in and link up, even if it's not goal scoring moments. She's such a good soccer player, and she's so comfortable connecting. That's a huge moment for this team. But having another option in central midfield, it allows Jalen Howell to push a little bit higher if that's what happens in those moments, and help sort of conduct that, which I think she's been great as the lone six. I think that's her best role. But with Hasbo in there, then there's a little bit more questions of, okay, well, which one of them is going to step in, and it's less predictable. And then I just haven't seen game-changing plays from Perchio or Jess, if she's available, or whoever it is that they can play in the attack. Ella Stevens not fully available, of course, so that not going to be an option. It just feels like you're both safest, but then also most dangerous setup is to have all of them in. And Gotham's going to have to find times to be on the ball. They can't have 40% possession. They will lose that game, because that's not how they're built. That's not who they are. And so it didn't work for Portland or Louisville, but they're more even built that way than you are. Gotham's going to have to sort of open up and find some opportunities. I would assume Mandy Freeman gets the start, just because it gives you that solid play. And
we don't know the status of Real. She came out, looked like she was limping.
And Bruninha as well came out early from this game. So there's some question marks in there for this Gotham team. It feels very much like it did 2 years ago, of like, they've got match winners. You know they're capable of it. Will they do so?
With the Spirit, it feels opposite, because last year they were limping into the final. And this year they feel like they're
roaring in. Yeah. And it feels like it's their game to go and win. They're dangerous on set pieces. They're dangerous in the run of play. There's a lot of different ways that they could get after this and get a win. We talked about already sort of what it means for these teams to get here. If they get over the line, like, what is, preview what you think our conversation next week will be like of, let's say, for Washington, if they win this championship, like, what it all means.
You said it earlier, like, it works, right? That what they're doing is working. I think for Washington, they would feel like last year they played a really good final and ended up not winning, right? And it would feel a little bit like validation for everything that they've put in, what they're building. They've done all of the little things right when it comes to like staff. Like, this team has a massive staff, and the people that take care of these players, they have a great training facility. They're investing money. They are doing what I think a lot of people have called on the NWSL to do. And so that works. And when you get the right people in the right places, that like a Gonzalez. I think he's really led this team well. And so it would feel like, I don't want to say a cherry on top of all the work that they've put in, because it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel complete. And to me, a cherry on top feels complete.
Yeah.
This feels like you're putting, I don't know why I'm on ice cream analogies.
Well, I think the validation is correct of what they're doing. I mean, the validation for Michelle Kang's investment as an individual, I think, but some of that stuff I find hard, which is I think they're already there. Back-to-back championships to me, appearances, is like what you're doing works. Everyone else should try and do what you're doing. And you've gotten the return of you get to be the center of the show. You get to be the center of the conversation, but you want to have the celebration off the back of one of those. You don't want to look back and say they were so good in this 4-year span where they went to 2 finals and maybe they win
3 finals because they won in 21, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying if you look from this point going forward, we don't know what next year looks like. We don't know what the future looks like. Yes. No, over Trinity Rodman's career, they have been to now 3 finals in a really, really short amount of time. But you have to win one of those so that you can say that. And you don't have to win everything. You don't have to be in every final. And when you make it, you're not going to win every game. But you have to win one. And this is their opportunity because they know how fleeting it is to be healthy at the right time in the right moment. And it feels like they're there and it feels like they've got an opportunity. On the flip side for Gotham, I think what they have validated is that the build 2 years ago was the build. They went short term last year, and I don't blame them. If you have these players saying yeah, I want to come, you're not going to say no. But it felt unsustainable unless they won and everyone was so happy about winning that you weren't going to keep all these players happy. There wasn't enough minutes. There's not enough time. There's probably not enough money on a salary cap. And then they found this balance this year of the Shapanskis and the Reals and the players who are young and in their first contracts, filling in alongside the stars like a Rose Lavelle and an Esther, and then the veterans like a Mandy Freeman, who have been there and can play multiple roles and be a part of this. This group for Gotham, I don't think is going anywhere. I think it's just going to get better. I think all the rookies this year will be a bigger factor next year. And the spine of this team is so good from now with Jalen Howell as a part of that, from Esther all the way back to Berger, that they'll be competitive over and over again. But the balance has to be there. You can't just be the superstar team. And 2 years ago, that's what it was. Ali Krieger at the back, Midge Purse playing at an all-time high level, and veteran attacking experience, but then some young players filling in some roles. And now it feels like they found themselves after the year sort of a miss and where they still finished third and went to a semifinal. And now this is sort of the revalidation of this is what we are. This is how we can build this at a high level. And I'd be surprised if Gotham's not back here a couple more times over the next 5-6 years based off the way this group is put together. But it's going to be a fun final. It's going to be a special event. Do you have a pick?
2-1 Washington Spirit.
I like that. I'm going to go 3-1 Washington. I think they get the late goal and open it up, but we're both picking them. We are way over time right now. We are pushing it. But I did mention Casey Current, while all of this was going on, fired their general manager, elevated Vlatko out of their coaching position, has an open coaching position now, and has promoted Ryan Dell to general manager. Dell held this role at Louisville in the past and was inside the club at a lower role. So it feels like what happened here is Vlatko is now in charge of all sporting decisions, but has stepped away from the sideline, will not be the day-to-day head coach, also will not be in the weeds as the day-to-day GM. That will be Ryan Dell doing some of the dotting the I's, crossing the T's work underneath that. But Vlatko is sort of the point setter. I don't think a lot of this is different. My guess would be if we had walked in the building 2 weeks ago, Vlatko would be the voice of the sporting direction. Vlatko was heavily involved in the roster construction, and that is sort of the continuation of this. Mm-hmm. Do you have a different reading of this from the outside?
Well, I just laughed because when you said poinsettia, I thought of poinsettia, like the flower in the Christmas time.
There you go.
It just made me giggle because that is not what you were saying at all.
Not at all.
I don't have a different read. I think from just an outsider, Vlatko's been on the field for a long time, and maybe he's just looking to change it up and do something different. And with what the Longs have built, not just being one club, but an organization that has multiple clubs all over the world, you want someone who has a really good direction of how you want those teams to play. And to me, that feels like maybe where Vlatko is wanting to put his time, but it is not what we expected on the heels of a nominee for Coach of the Year. And then you get that he's not coaching anymore. What a bummer. He just didn't even think that was the last time we were going to see him coaching.
Also, a surprise to see a team set a points record and then fire someone who is involved in that. And that's like, I understand a little bit. Okay, there's some movement, but Caitlin Carducci has been pulling the strings now for a year and a half. My guess would be if we dug really deep, a lot of signings you'd say are Vlatko signings, and this, he identified players, or he had main conversations, or he has the links and connections. I get all of that. It just seems really harsh to be a part of a record-setting team, and then after that, a week later, being let go while the playoffs are still happening across the league. I do think we are still in a place where like talent and collection of talent is the most important thing for teams, and then the tactical side comes in. And so if Vlatko's good at both of them and says, I only have the energy to focus on one, you could understand the choice being, all right, let's move him into this role. Let's make sure we still have him at his best capacity doing this. And then we figure out the coaching stuff on the side. The expectation would be that one of his former assistants or someone he's connected to takes over as a head coach?
I would think so. I mean, just when I heard this, Milan has been with him for a long time as his first assistant right now. I would think when you're changing that much, you would want somebody to keep that same vein of coaching ideas and influence in charge of what you're doing. But I don't know. There's a lot of ambition in the Longs and in that organization too. So I don't know what the coaching search is going to look like.
The other name that popped to my head was Twyla Kilgore, who worked under him with U.S. Soccer and then obviously replaced him as interim manager, who's been without a job, I think, for a year now, that we've connected to every other job possible. So this is what we do, and this is what we do it. This feels like probably not a shakeup, but like things really remain the same, which for this club is what you want. But it was surprising to just see any news like this come out from a team where it felt bulletproof 2 weeks ago. And like, you lost a playoff game. There were injuries, but like things happen. I don't think this was reactionary to this. I'm sure this was planned in advance. But it just seems really, really odd for it to happen. My guess is this team continues to roll on going forward. And then big announcement for the Denver Summit. They've announced their next two players. So Kaylee Kurtz and Megan Reed will join the team. Jordan, this feels similar in my mind on the Ali Watt signing of like good NWSL experience, true starting level players where you can start to put big name talent around that or young players. But like here is sort of your core of what a competitive team looks like.
And when you're building a team, right, you want to look at your spine first. Like, who are those players that are going to solidify the spine and have played in this league? So 4-time Iron Woman, Kaylee Kurtz is a pretty good signing when it comes to availability and knowing what it's like to play in NWSL games. And then Megan Reed is a great story. Didn't even think she was going to be a professional soccer player. Now has played for Angel City since they started. So I think that for the Summit, it's a really good start. And now that the season is, over after this weekend, I would imagine a lot more conversations are happening, but with them, with Boston Legacy as well, to make sure that they're building their rosters as quickly as possible, because they'll be in preseason in just over a month.
Yeah. You mentioned the spine, Casey Murphy signing with Boston Legacy. That's similar as like, okay, can you have, especially players who have won in this league, who have been in this league, Kaylee Kurtz on the top of this list. It does open up the question marks around what does North Carolina look like going forward, because that is a lot of minutes coming off your books, off your team, in a team that hasn't had a ton of stability. That's going to be a big part of our offseason conversations that are going to be coming up. But first, We've got a final on the books this weekend. We're going to continue to cover this with Kickback Committee. Our show will be coming out tomorrow. We're going to look to both sides about what it means to the fan bases and to these teams and how they've gotten to this point. And we're going to be out in San Jose as well. We'll have your reaction to the championship coming up next week after we see everything go down on Saturday night. Anything for you,
Come say hi to us.
Come say hi to us. Hit me up on Blue Sky. If you are around, hit up our accounts as well. Thank you to everyone in the chat. It was awesome having your input throughout the show. We'll talk to you all again very, very soon.